Hey, welcome to the Live Like It's True podcast, where we look at some of the most interesting and surprising stories of the Bible. Stories that collectively all tell the true story about God. I'm your host, Shannon Popkin, inviting you to open your Bible with me, to drink in this true story and to live like it's true. If you're here for one of our more recent episodes, we are in the Judgy series. So we're looking at stories of judgment and mercy in the Bible and how to live like it's true that our God is a merciful judge. Well, Hope and Christine, welcome back to Live Like It's True.
Thank you. We're
You
excited
guys-
to be here.
You
Love
guys just make me laugh. I don't know why, but just being with you, we've already had a little time to laugh about, well, let me just say right off the bat, what is it? Halakai?
Right. Yes.
Your book on Halakai is coming. So they are both authors. They co-authored together. Let me give a little bit more specifics on your bio. Chris is the theologian. Hope is the therapist. So we've got an upcoming book for the from the theologian and the therapist. So it's a great way to help us remember you. But Chris, you have a master's degree from Covenant Seminary in Missouri. So that's why, you're the theologian. You're also a wife and a mom, deeply invested in Bible study. And Hope is a social worker with her degree from Temple University. And Hope has a private practice in San Antonio. She's a social worker, and we're just so blessed to have both of you back. You've been here several times now, right?
Right. I think this might be number 3, right, Chris?
Is it?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think it's 3.
Yeah. We talked about one of my favorite conversations, and one that people have returned to over and over, was the story of the woman, the bleeding woman, who reached out to Jesus. And then we talked also about Sarah and, that Genesis 18 story of Sarah in the tent. And it's one of my favorite stories. So you guys, man, we've gotten to have some really great conversations about God's word. Mm-hmm. And I love having you back. So, okay. I was thinking about, I don't know what this says about me, but I am very easily annoyed by things that are like, I think if I had to drill down and tell you what annoys me, it's repetitive things. It's like the thing that happens over and over. I don't know if you can relate to that, but here's my deal. We're all dog people, right? Hope you too, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. We're all dog people. Well, I have 2 Shih Tzus. When I am with my dogs, I'm talking with them. I'm like, oh, hi, buddy. I just picked them up from the groomer. I'm like, oh, you look so cute. Hi, buddy. So good. Yes. Giving them hugs and stuff. My husband gets home and he doesn't say anything to them. He doesn't talk to them. I know, it's weird. He gets on the floor and he just picks up the ball and he throws it down the steps, and you hear it clunk, clunk, clunk. And then, they're coming clunk, clunk, clunk. Did I get the sound effect right? And it just annoys me to no end. I don't know why. It's just the sound of the ball. It's like this repetitive thing. It's like, I know, here it is. Here it comes. He's just gotten home. It's coming. And it's just like, I have to go in a different room. I cannot handle it. What does that say about me, Counselor Hope? I don't know.
I know. So let's analyze. What do we have going on here? That's another podcast, Shannon. Exactly. Let's get her some headphones, right, Chris? That's what I was thinking. That's right.
No,
we can do that.
I do. I feel like maybe I'm on the spectrum somewhere, because I feel like
the sensory noise.
Yes, headphones would do me some good. In life. But I wondered if are there any other things that annoy you guys? Am I alone in this?
Of course. Girl, how long do we have? I was going to say, we got another 40 minutes. My number one, and I know this is so, I don't know why, when people do not use their turn signals. I'm like, how am I supposed to drive? I don't know where you're going. You're not talking to me. Do you want me to just sit here and stare into your eyeballs? I don't understand. You have a tool here. Why are you not using it? I don't understand.
You have a tool. How about you?
Right. I think the same thing. For me, oh my gosh, I don't know what it is about crumbs in the bed. Just like random, anything. I just
get it out.
Get it out. And then I have to sweep it, and then I sweep it again. And we don't even eat in our bed. I'm not sure where all these things. We do have dogs. Our kennel club, but I would just that sends me. I hate it. It's one of my big pet peeves.
Yep. Yep. So, well, I think we're going to have something in common then with the guy in the story that we're going to hear about. He is not a very compassionate, very kind person. He's easily annoyed, and Jesus is going to tell a story about him. So this is the story of the persistent widow found in Luke chapter 18. And I have to say, you guys have written a number of Bible studies, including twofold on Luke. And are all of the studies getting the square updated look, or
they are over time? They are, but yes, you're correct that we have written about Luke. We have it to where we broke it down into 3 parts where it's really long and slow. And then we have one where it's just a 10-week one, the Servant King. But we talk about this story in our study. Chris, I'm not sure if it's in the Servant King too, but it's for sure
it's
in our
3.
Luke part 2.
It's in number 3.
Luke part 3,
yeah. Okay. So you've got a 3-part Luke study.
So if you want to like slow way down, which we've had a few churches who I kind of want to cheer them on. I'm like,
my church is
invested.
Yep.
You do like 3 full semesters on the Gospel of Luke, or you can do it in 10 weeks.
I think it's worth it. I'm a slow learner, but also I prefer that. I prefer to really take my time and dig into scripture. And so, and I guess we failed to say that Halachi is going to be a new study on Haggai and Malachi, which is coming out in July. So excited about that. But yeah, you guys need to check out all of the At His Feet Bible study series. Hope and Chris are such great writers. They combine their skills as theologian and therapist. And so they really have a really unique blend in getting us into the word. But let's get into this passage. So who wants to read Luke 18, 1-8 for us?
Yeah, I can read it.
Okay.
And he told them a parable to the effect that they ought always to pray and not lose heart. He said, in a certain city, there was a judge who neither feared God nor respected man. And there was a widow in that city who kept coming to him and saying, give me justice against my adversary. For a while he refused, but afterward he said to himself, though I neither fear God nor respect man, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will give her justice so that she will not beat me down by her continual coming. And the Lord said, hear what the unrighteous judge says. And will not God give justice to his elect who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long over them? I tell you, he will give justice to them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth?
Okay, great. I love this parable because we know exactly what we're supposed to get out of it. Like Jesus tells us, he gives us an intro and an outro. And this story is about persistent prayer, right? It's about coming, but it's also about a judge. It's like sometimes I don't think we think of God as the judge of the whole world, right? So what difference does it make to come to God as our judge? What do you guys think?
Wait, can I back up just 1 second, Jen?
Yeah.
Before we even get there, I was thinking about how this, if you read this parable in the context, it's like Jesus is talking about praying while we wait, because right before in 17 is talking about like coming back. And so like, how do we pray as we wait for him to return?
Oh, that's
so
good.
like, then if you think about a judge, like the judge who's coming back, you know what I mean? To like do his thing. That just frames it in a certain way. Yeah. I mean, like this is authority. This is who we are answering to now, but we will answer to then. All those things together, I think.
Yeah. And I think keeping the timeline in mind is helpful too, because so often we want to come to God as our judge right now in the here and now. Like we want it all put right. And I do think that God moves in that way sometimes, but I don't think we're going to fully realize justice until the other part of the timeline, and that's what Jesus is talking about when he returns. That's the end of the story.
Yeah. I think you're right in the sense of like this waiting for justice and how Jesus is going to put that right 100% at the end. Kind of like we talk about how we'll have healing in this life, but it's rare that we'll have 100% healing on this side of glory, and so it's kind of like that same concept, thinking about that with justice.
Yeah. Well, and so as a counselor, you probably encounter a lot of people who long for justice.
Yes. And we have this conversation a lot. Yep.
Yeah. How do you help them approach the timeline? of waiting?
We literally say, I say a lot to them what you just said. I think that's why I jumped in so much. I was like, yes, it's so familiar to me of like this. We will sit in here. I even had this conversation today with a client, about justice for a certain situation and how do we sit in that tension and that waiting. And so they were kind of like, well, then I think, some people just want to then not hope for justice at all. That's what they want to do, to wait, as opposed to holding the tension of, I'm going to pray for justice, even if I don't get it. And then I'm going to wait for God, as opposed to like, I'm just not going to want it anymore. So I don't have to feel this tension. I'm going to still ask for it, but I'm going to also go ahead and live my life while it's not happening. Does that make sense? So it's like this waiting.
There would be, so the two options would be resignation. Right. I'm just going to stop asking because it's too hard to know that I'm going to have to wait, or the persistence, right?
Right.
And both of them have to live with the tension of the timeline. Right?
That's right.
There is a tension of a timeline here. So, all right. But as you look at this story where Jesus is wanting us to wait with faith, what's surprising? What's the surprise of the story? What makes it a story? What turns it into something that, Jesus doesn't just give us a boring whatever. He gives us a story. So what makes this a good story?
Leadership comes with a lot of pressure, especially in ministry. On Regarding Leadership, we go beyond the expectations, behind the mask, and beneath the surface to have honest conversations about what leadership really requires. Listen today wherever you get podcasts.
I think, thinking about the story, that what does Jesus want from us? I think made me think that feels surprising. And especially if you think in the world of, like the small g gods in the world and what they want to be served. They want, it's like you have to please them. And what God wants is our dependence and our weakness, and those two things are like things that everyone can give him. We're all weak. We all need him, our need. Yeah. That's what he wants. And that's not, I don't think, what we expect, especially in this sort of like puritanical, and no shade on the Puritans. I love the Puritans, but this sort of like Western, we get it right. I think we flip that sometimes. What does he really want from us?
Well, and we live in such an empowered can-do culture. Like we have so much autonomy, we have money, we have our rights, right? We have our freedoms. And so that's our bent as Americans, at least. I know we have people listening from other countries as well, but that's what they think of us as Americans, and it is, it is true, but we do not like to just settle in with like, no, I'm not gonna be able to fix this. That is uncomfortable for all of us, but particularly Americans. And the fact that that's what God wants from us is to just sit there in our need and bring it like what you're saying is he wants me to come to him over and over and over in the tension of the timeline, bring my need, bring my need, bring my need. That I know of somebody right now that I'm, just kind of praying through the tension of the timeline. This person would like things to fall into place much more quickly than they are. And they want to do something. They want to do, give me what to do. Give me the list. And they just said it last night. They were like, I just wish God would give me the list and I could do the list and then I could get what I want. We want the transaction, right?
I was going to say, but he's not a transactional God. It's not how he works.
It is not.
But that's what we want.
Come
for sure.
to him. But okay, so you're saying this is interesting that what Jesus wants from us is that we would continue to come. But I think it's also interesting, as he kind of does this juxtaposition between these two, the unjust judge who's so inconsiderate, no compassion. He doesn't care about anybody or anything. And he's contrasting that judge with our judge, God. And I was just thinking about how like Jesus really likes the boldness.
Yeah.
He likes this woman who will just, she doesn't care either. She ain't going to keep showing. She is going to beat you down.
That's right.
And I think the fact that Jesus, like, he likes that, I think that's great, because that is me. I will beat you down.
I love it.
And the fact that Jesus likes that about me is like, oh, because that is something I can do.
It's good
right?
news.
It's
That's
good
right.
News. I can just come in my need, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It reminds me. It reminds me so much. That's what surprises me so much about this passage is her persistence, right? Like that's Jesus is like, he didn't give her justice because he was godly. He didn't give her justice because he gave her justice because she was persistent. And he was annoyed. It reminds me so much of Luke 11, which is so parallel to this when Jesus is teaching them how to pray and he's like, come this way. And he tells them a parable that's kind of similar to this, where someone is knocking at the door at midnight for bread, and they get up and give it to him. And it says, not because of this, not because of that, but because of their impotence or their shameless begging. And so to me, it's like these are so similar. It's like this, except this one is about justice, but it's the same spirit of like this relentless. It's not because of the giver, the judge, or the person that's getting the door knocked on at midnight. And, in Luke 11, it's not about them being good people doing the right thing. It's because of the coming over and over again, or like Chris said, that constant dependence. But in this situation, it's constantly asking God for justice, just that persistence. And so, yes, it's like he wants us to come, just over and over again. And to your friend who was saying, just give me the list of things. It's so interesting. The things here is the persistent asking for justice.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. That's the thing, is that consistent, that begging, that praying, that asking. And so it's just so interesting to me how these stories are similar.
Yeah.
One is about justice, but again, the same, like almost spirit of how that person is supposed to come to God asking for that.
Yeah. I think is the word chutzpah. The Hebrew word, I think it's like chutzpah. It's like, you've got that, like I've got this boldness. And it also reminds me of the Gentile woman who was like, she kept, like, I did an episode on that story. She was being ignored and she just kept like, and then Jesus kind of says, well, I've come for the lost sheep of Israel, not the Gentiles. And she's like, but even the dogs get crumbs from the table. And she's like saying, I'll be a dog, I am here for it. And I'm going to keep. And Jesus was amazed by her faith because of her persistence. Again, he likes it. He likes it when we are persistent. But I was kind of thinking about the contrast between the widow's relationship with the judge and our relationship with God. Like that's really what Jesus is contrasting here. And she has no relationship with the judge. All she has is the persistence. But I think, when I think of coming to God over and over and being a pest, it's not a pesky thing because I'm his child,
Right.
It kind of reminds me of like, did you guys see in the inauguration where JD Vance's kids were there? And they were like, I don't know if you saw any videos. I just thought it was adorable. His kids are they're like climbing on his lap, like, playing, like, come on, daddy, look at me. Like, they don't care that he's going to be the vice president. Yeah. They're just there. They're just kids.
Dad.
And they're going to keep, poking and pestering. Like I think that's our relationship with our God. There might be boundaries for other people where they can't go into God with this personal kind of, asking. If you're JD Vance's kid, nobody else can say, hey, can you pick me up from soccer practice? But his kid can, that'd be terribly disrespectful to ask, but his kid can ask him because there's that relationship. What other contrasts do you see that are beautiful in this story?
I was thinking about that Jesus does this so much. He argues the lesser to the greater, and so many of the stories he gives us. And I was thinking about that the judge had jurisdiction, right? And authority over a certain number of people in a place, in a town, and whatever, in a certain number of cases. But Jesus has jurisdiction over every living thing. So that's the contrast that stands out to me,
Yeah.
is like, who actually has the power to give justice? Whose jurisdiction are we actually in?
Yep.
Are we in the judges? Yeah, but we're always in Jesus' jurisdiction. And that feels like, that's a really comforting thing to me. And that's a big contrast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that, Chris, because I was thinking the same thing about a conversation I had with someone recently about kind of like they needed a favor and they're calling in a favor and using status or whatever relationship in order to get that, which makes sense, right? And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be cool if I had that kind of access to get a favor like that? Because that would have been really helpful. And then I felt like God was like, hello, like you have access to me, right? You have access. It like goes over, we might say people's authority is here and we're like, oh, I want access here. And God's like, oh no, you got access up here, And so exactly what you're saying, Chris, it's like, Jesus is the presiding judge over that judge. It's like, that judge isn't to be feared. It's Jesus is who to be feared and asked for, just kind of like calling in a favor. No, we get to go call Jesus for the favor. It's not like just some man-made whatever. And that's really comforting, I think, especially in issues of justice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think what's hard is when we don't see that justice being realized, even though our judge is over all the earth. And so then the responding question is, don't you care? Don't you see? Do you see I'm dealing with this injustice, God? Like, I'm your daughter. I have this full access and I am asking, and I don't see you doing anything. How do we help? How do we deal with that ourselves, or how do we help others?
I mean, I think that's a place where what you're talking about earlier about the timeline, and I would call it's the same thought, but I would call that the already not yet of like, that's where we sit. And that the fact that we see bits of it now, but the bits that we see are confirmation of the fullness of justice, which will happen. So I think, like, when I think about justice, the clearest thing I think is I have an adopted special needs autistic Black child who is a drug baby. And like the number of places where I have hit walls trying to advocate for him, like his school district wouldn't put him in a special needs school, which, like, if you meet him for 5 minutes, it's so obvious what he needs. And I think, did our other school district just look at him and think, well, this is a Black child, and there are all these stats about how they get put in different places and don't get diagnosed, blah, 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 all that. And I just think, like, someday there will be justice for him, like absolute justice. And I long for that, and I think the fact that I am sure that it is coming helps me now when I don't get what I know should happen. I know it's right. And I know God hears me. And I think, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know it's going to feel really good when it comes.
Yes. Well, this series we're talking about, it's our judgy series. And most often, like, we don't want to be judged. We don't want judgment. We avoid that like the plague. Please don't judge me. But this we do want. We want to hear from this judge when we are struggling with injustice, something is wrong on behalf of our kids, on behalf of ourselves, something in our churches, something isn't right. We want to know. And really, what are we asking for? I wrote that question somewhere in this text. Like, when we are coming to him over and over and over, what is it that we actually want? Some of the things that we want cannot be realized even in the here and now. It's not even possible. Like, I was looking at that word adversary. The woman has an adversary. And who's our adversary? It's not always a person. Some people are crying out to God for injustice because they have an adversary they can't see. Our enemy is called an adversary. Maybe their child isn't dealing with, like, Chris, I have so much compassion for you dealing with these special needs and these, you said 5 minutes and you understand what he needs. Well, there are other things that we can't advocate for because it's the enemy has infiltrated our child's mind, right?
Yeah.
And they're believing a lie about themselves, or they're believing a lie about God, or about a lie in the world. Maybe they're believing lies about who God made them to be, like their gender. They're struggling with that, same-sex attraction, whatever. The enemy has infiltrated, and that's the adversary. And so, like, how do we get justice with that adversary? How do we get back what is being taken? How do we fight over what has been lost? It feels like too much. It feels like where do I point my my gun? I don't even know where to go with this, but I can go to God over and over and over, and whatever has been taken and has been lost in this world, justice will be served. And I don't know, like you said, I don't know what that will look like, but I know it will feel really good.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
To have that enemy put where he belongs, that adversary, along with the real life flesh and blood adversaries that we face in this life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me think of, when the adversary here, we're thinking of a person, right, in this text. And then you kind of talking, Shannon, there about the adversary, which is the evil one, the enemy, the devil coming to kill, steal, and destroy. It's like there's lowercase a's adversaries, and then there's capital A, right?
Yeah.
And what's so interesting is we already have, a book in the Bible, Revelation, where it tells the story of the justice that's coming for the big capital A adversary. It's like we get to read that and go, oh, okay, one day you are going to come and do this thing to this adversary. And kind of like Chris was saying, the lesser to the greater. So it's almost like the opposite. Revelation is like the greater to the lesser. It's like we can take that story of that capital A adversary and point it down into these smaller places. And knowing that these people that we're experiencing adversity with and injustice in this life and what they're doing, we know that he's behind the scenes, pulling strings, moving these people to do these things, right? And so they're like a puppet in a way. I mean, they obviously have all the responsibility as far as their ownership over that. But I think it's just helpful to think about that of like, it's not like, okay, well, I'm not going to see justice in this life and I'm never going to see justice. It's like, oh, I've already been given a text in the Bible that tells me about the justice against the biggest adversary of all, who is orchestrating all adversaries underneath him that I'm experiencing. And so sometimes there is a way to rest in that. And then also kind of like Chris was saying, it's like you look to these little moments of justice, even if they're not the biggest moment of justice. That's what I usually do with clients who are struggling with this, where they are really asking God for justice about something horrific that has been done to them, whether that's sexual abuse, assault, trafficking, you name it. I've heard those stories in here, and they want justice now. And I'm like begging God, why aren't you giving them justice now? But sometimes they're able to see little justices, even if they can't see the justice that they're even wanting now, like maybe that person going to jail or whatever, but we try to adjust our goggles down to like, well, let's just see if we can see even little justices, because then it gives us hope for the big justice that we know is coming, when the new heavens and new earth, but also just hope for even justice in this life. And what I found is when we do that, when we talk about the coming justice and the little justices, they somehow are able to long suffer in the interim of not getting that justice that they want. It's like gives them enough. It's like the breadcrumb, to kind of help them long suffer through not getting it today.
Yeah. Yeah. And like having that expectancy, I think that justice will be served. I think that honors God. I think that's really kind of what Jesus is getting at here when he says, you ought to always pray and not lose heart. The losing heart would be like, I give up, resignation.
Yeah.
Like I've tried, and this whole world is just, I'm out, just no hope. So there's some sort of expectancy in our hope, like in not losing hope. There's some, like, I am appealing to a judge that is nothing like this judge Jesus talked about. I'm appealing to a judge, let anything go.
That's right.
He's going to track down every minute piece of justice until it is all put right. And don't misjudge this judge in the here and now just because you haven't seen what will happen in the there and then, right? Like wait until the there and then, until you assess fully who this judge is. Right now, have a sense of expectancy, but let's just hold off before, we have some sort of final judgment about our judge. And I know I'm flipping that around. Like, that's not really what this is talking about, but I think, the story is meant to help us see our judge clearly, and it's that lesser to the greater. This is a terrible judge. And some of us have experienced terrible judges in this world who just don't care. They have all the power. They don't care what anybody thinks. Like it says, they don't fear God. They don't care about his law. They don't fear man. They don't care what anybody's going to think of them, because they have the power and they're just not worried about it. And so we've all encountered judges like that in the here and now. But our judge is nothing like that. He is so, that's what the story is putting in. It's the lesser to the greater. Even that judge will respond to persistence. How much more will our good judge respond, to this persistence of his elect? I thought that was interesting too. Do you guys have any thoughts about Jesus using the word elect here? Is that what it was in your translation, verse 7?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Justice to his elect, to cry to him day and night. When I read things like that, I mean, this is a whole nother conversation, right? Sure. We can talk about, Hope and I are right in the middle of this in Malachi.
Okay.
Jacob I've loved, Esau I've hated. It's hard.
Yeah.
But I think when I read stuff like that, I'm like, what a privilege. That's what it makes me think. What a privilege that God's going to even listen to you.
Yeah.
There's no reason he should listen to me. Exactly. There's nothing in me that makes me like hearing worthy, So why would he
treat me like a child when I was the enemy?
Right.
I was on the adversary's team, and why would he treat me like a child? I'm his elect.
Yes.
But I looked it up, and the only other time Jesus uses that word elect to describe believers is when he's in the Olivet Discourse. So he's talking about end times. And so here again, there's a connection with end times, and that's where it will be for the sake of the elect that justice will be served. He's already chosen it's grace upon grace upon grace, the story that we're part of. But anything else surprising, or anything else you wanted to notice in this story?
Serious faith deserves serious conversation. At Round the Table, we produce thoughtful, gospel-centered content grounded in the truth of God's Word. Pull up a chair and join us where truth and life meet. Visit roundthetable.co.
Well, just like you were talking, Shannon, about the judge and how this is showing the good, true judge, and I know I keep talking about Luke 11, but there, Jesus, that's when he says, who, if their child asks for bread, gives them a stone, or asks for a fish, gives them a scorpion, how much more, I'm probably misquoting it, but it's kind of he's kind of saying the same thing here. Like, this is how this judge acts. This is how I act, and you have access to me, right? Because you're the elect, you're the beloved. And so it's just a beautiful picture of you have access to something so much greater in me and who I am and how I'm going to care for you as the judge. So,
yeah. And we didn't really talk about widows. Widows are like, we did talk about coming to him with our need. Widows in this culture had no rights. They did, they needed someone to advocate for them. Like your son, Chris, needs you to advocate for him. And it's different than our culture, where we have a lot more rights, a lot more authority. But I even think of a widow that I know who, her husband died during COVID. And she is still grieving his loss because he was super healthy and they had all these plans. And within 2 weeks, he was gone. And, I think she just wonders if there could have been a different outcome if things were handled differently. And I know there are a lot of different ideas about COVID, but I see this woman who was just helpless in a situation that was so far beyond anything that she had any control over. And still dealing with the injustice. So if that's you, you know, and that's me in some ways, like there are things that I don't see how they're ever going to be put right because somebody else doesn't see the problem. They don't see that they've wronged me. They don't care that they've wronged me. Right. And some of those things we're still grieving over these losses for years. And I hope, you know, you probably hear that on a daily basis. Like, and, I think just knowing my friend and knowing how she still wants to talk about it. She still wants to talk about the losses. She still wants to remember her husband. You know, it's now been 4 years. Of course she does. Of course she does. And it's no problem for us to hear that again. And that's how, when I turn that back to this good father judge, you know, it's no problem for him to hear it again and again. In fact, he likes it. He appreciates it. You know, that is the thing I'm reveling in this story.
Yeah, I think I've been thinking as you've been that how he likes it. I think a lot of times when I ask people, like, what have you been talking to Jesus about? Or what, you know, there are all these understandable because they are maybe thinking about God like their parent was, or like a friend is, or like a husband is, or whatever. Like, oh, I don't want to bother him. Or like, oh, he has enough to do. Or like, I'm sure, you know, he probably is getting sick of me talking about this, you know what I mean? And this, it's like, this is the answer to that is like, actually he's not. And here's where we see what it's like, you know? And I think too, talking about the elect and what he does for children, he could have just given us like a system of doctrine, like you're the elect, you're the this, you're the that, but he doesn't just do that. He fills it out with story and color and nuance of like, well, what does that mean? Well, it means you have these terrible judges. Well, I'm the righteous judge. It's like he gives us all these pictures so that we can experience what is that? That's such a condescension for him and a humility that he would give us like our kind of words to understand who he is. He didn't have to do that. I think that's another surprising thing about that. And I mean, honestly, all through the Bible that he would take the time to do that.
Yeah. But he wants us to understand. It reminds me of my dad was on staff at a church, and we went to that church at the time, and my kids felt like they owned the place. You know, they just wandered the church halls, and my dad was in a board meeting with the whole staff. You know, like behind closed doors, like, you know, not no accessibility. But my son was about 5, and he was wandering around, and he opened that door, and he goes, "Oh, hi, Papa." Like feels no shame, like no, you know, he's not bothered by the fact that they're all sitting there having a meeting. I, of course, am dying 1,000 deaths, you know, mortified that I heard about it later. Oh, hi, Papa. You know, I just love that. Like that's our God, and my dad loves that story. Like he loved that. He loved that his grandson just saw him, was like, oh, hi, you know. That's how God feels. He wants us to just keep knocking. Oh, hi, God. I'm here again. I'm here to ask you again and again and again. I know I have full access. You're my daddy. You know, you're my papa. And I can come anytime. So, what false narratives does the story correct for us?
For me, I was thinking about just kind of that false narrative that there's no creator and that having God, you know, in my life wouldn't make anything better. And really, this is such a picture of like what Chris was saying earlier. There's a bigger judge than the judge that's even in this story. And that's the creator. That's the father judge, as you were saying, but he's also the creator judge, and how it does matter that you're connected to that person. It does make a difference, and make a difference in how your life goes. And so it does make it better. And we see that in the story. Jesus is then saying, I will make it better. I literally am going to be the one that's going to make it better. And your connection to me is crucial in that. And so it's just, to me, it pushes against that false narrative that there isn't a creator. It doesn't matter what we do anyway. And by the way, he wouldn't help me anyway, or help my life.
Yeah. On both sides, like whether you are, you know, sinning against this creator, it makes a difference. Like, no, there is a creator judge. And if you've been sinned against by another creature,
that's right.
No, there is a creator judge. And so in both instances, it matters. Yeah. And it's a lie that nobody's keeping track. There will be no accounting. That is all the lie of the enemy. Like, and it started in the Garden of Eden, did God really say? And there won't be any, you will not surely die, just doing away with all accountability, all of God's words, and those are lies. Right. And so holding on. And so any other false narratives? It's fine if
I was going to say he's forgotten about me and he doesn't care, which is what it feels like when it's not being fixed now. And also just, I was thinking both of those things, what Hope said, and that what it leads to then in my heart and mind is, well, I better do something myself then.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to take this in my own hands. Well, especially if it's against my kids, I'm like, you tell me where they live and I will take care of this, Yeah. I mean, that's my natural bent. It's like, I'm not big, but I'm feisty.
What's that kid's mom's phone number? Am I right?
Exactly. Give me his address.
Oh, it's so true. I mean, I'm embarrassed to tell you this story, but I was there. My son was being like picked on. He was in a lacrosse group where there were bigger kids playing with little kids. I don't know, some off-season training. And so he was being picked on, and he was, they were being rough with him. And I'm walking in from the parking lot, and I thought we were walking in with the kid who'd been picking on him because he was bigger. I thought, I'm not, this is the adversary. This is the enemy. And so I said something like, hey, I heard that you've been giving Kate a hard time. And Kate's like, Mom, no, he is my friend.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry about that.
Oh my gosh. I
was like, there
Shannon's coming in like,
I was coming in hot. I'm like, I am bigger than you,
That's right.
I might only be 5 foot.
It's so funny. It's so funny. I have a story where when my kid was in middle school, she was in 7th grade. We were driving home from school and I saw a kid getting chased and kind of started to get beat up by this like mob of kids. And he was little. And I told my daughter, I was like, I'm going to say something. She's like, Mom, don't. I'm like, no. I roll the window down and I'm telling everybody this. I totally lied and said, hey, I'm the social worker that works for the school over there, which I didn't, but I used to years ago work at schools. And I was like, you need to stop. And they were all like, no, first I just said, hey, you need to stop. Y'all need to go home. And they turned to me, this one really big kid goes, well, who the F are you? Or something like that. And I said, oh, I'm the social worker at the school over there. And I'm you know what? I'm calling the principal right now. And I picked up my phone and I was like, yep. Yes. This kid looks like, and they all ran.
Oh, good.
Okay. My daughter is now on the floor aboard of our minivan. And I turned to her on the drive home and I said, that's justice. Like you have to in these moments because I'm not going to let this kid, and like I'm imaging God in that in a little tiny way. Think how much
that's right.
This just judge is like, oh no, we are not doing
and
this.
How much more does he care? Right?
Yes.
You don't know this kid and you're like this
exactly
twisted motivation human. Right. I mean, I love you, but it's true about all of us.
Yes. Impersonating social workers.
Right.
Lying that I was a social worker. Lying that I'm calling the school. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How much more is the Lord
How much more?
And his justice,
that's right.
Pursuit of justice on our behalf.
Oh, it's so true. Yeah. And I think
that's right.
I think sometimes we shy away from justice. Like, because Jesus was so meek and mild and he said, the greatest is the servant, and servants aren't really those rising up for justice. They're just leaning low to do their humble work. But no, our God is a God of justice. And I think he probably loved that moment. I think he was cheering you on. I don't know if he loved me like bullying the bully, but the non-bully.
Non-bully, but the bully probably saw that and was like, oh.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's right.
I don't know. But
that's right.
Any instances where you have lived like this story is true?
Yeah, I feel like I always think about Ezra, my youngest, and that, I mean, if you go back, like he came into the world in an unjust place, like there were things that happened with his mom and his dad in ways they were sinned against that got them to a place that meant he wasn't cared for in the womb. they didn't even know about him. I mean, it's like all these things that happened against him before he ever took a breath.
Right.
And I think, yeah, in the new earth, I'm going to sit with him and it's all going to be made right. And he's going to be healed. And like those things that happened to him that he had no say over are going to be made right. And in ways that I can't yet imagine. And that, I mean, I think about that a lot because I know like this kid is going to have a hard go of it, and all of us around him until he dies. It's how it's going to be. And so that's a real hope for me, is that justice is coming. Justice, healing, lots of things are coming for him. Yeah.
He said, in the age to come, like that's his elect cry out to him day and night. Will he delay long over them? I tell you, he will give justice to them speedily when the Son of Man comes. So it's that day that the Son of Man comes in the age to come, having our mind on that as we pray in the here and now, right? I think there's something that shifts when you aren't just praying that it will happen for Ezra in this lifetime. You know, there's something like maybe it just helps us to put into perspective the justice that we crave, because the justice you want, like who's the adversary? How do you even track them down? It's too big. It's too complex. Like there is not one single adversary. It's a whole system that's broken and so much stacked against one little kid. But if you can shift your focus to everything being put right for him and Ezra having nothing, no holds barred, like he can just be free to be who he was always made to be with nothing stacked against him. I mean, that'll be a great day. That'll be something to anticipate. And I think the judge is anticipating that as well, you know? Yeah. How about you, Hope?
Yeah, I think for me, it's justice in different areas of my life that have been confusing, or, you know, where people have done wrong things and, you know, what's happening with that. But also I think I've thought about this a lot as a therapist, you know, and just really holding that tension of praying for whatever God wants to push against and bring justice to now, and the ultimate justice, you know? And so for me, I think that's where I try to live like it's true, or lean into that, is through conversations, especially with clients who are just really, really struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not as though we don't want justice in the here and now, right? So living like it's true isn't just about justice in the there and then. It's also about like, I am aligned with a judge who is committed to justice. And so, appealing to him over and over. All right. Well, thank you, girls. This has been fabulous as always. And let's live like it's true that we serve the judge of the world, who we can have access to, and he likes it when we come back to him over and over. Friend, I hope this conversation will inspire you to study this story for yourself straight from the Bible. If you've been enjoying this Judgy series, I hope you'll order a copy of my new book with Moody Publishers titled Kinda Judgy, Finding Mercy for Myself and Others in 6 Stories of the Bible. You can find information about that book and other resources at my website, shannonpopkin.com. Check the show notes for links to the other resources mentioned in this episode, and a link to my website where you can search our episodes by section and book of the Bible. Live Like It's True is part of the Round the Table Network. For more gospel-centered content that nurtures connection, deepens faith, and sparks conversation, go to roundthetable.co. Thanks so much for joining me, and now it's time to go live like it's true.